This is one of those stories that stayed with me since childhood. It was eerie enough to make my hair stand up on the back of my neck, and to this day I still wonder what actually happened. A lot of my storytelling and my books have been inspired by events that actually happened. This is one of those events. It was a hot sunny day, approximately late afternoon. The air was humid and the sun was hot and shone brightly in the sky. It was a weekday back in Nigeria, and my two cousins and I were being driven home from school. I was in the back seat with one of them, whilst the other was in the passenger seat, whilst the driver drove. We were going over a bridge. It was quite a busy long one that crossed over the lagoon. We were all busy in the vehicle, as teenagers are. My cousin up front was fiddling with the radio, looking for his music. The cousin next to me had his personal music player with him, and I was gazing out the window. I had lots of Nancy Drew books on my lap. I'd borrowed them from a friend, and I was keen to get home and read them. We were all distracted in our own way, as young people normally are. Suddenly, the driver started, and a loud exclamation came from him. He could be a bit of a dramatic man, so we weren't too concerned. We all started looking for what had caused his outburst. We expected to see a horrible accident, raging flames from an engine, perhaps even a mangled mess on the ground, as people averted their eyes and the braver ones went to help. There was nothing, no pile-up, no smoke, no wreck, no blood. Yet there was a strange undercurrent and a few screams as people ran around. A few roadside sellers were so distressed they dropped their wares. We observed in astonishment as ice cream dripped from a hawker's street trolley, as he'd driven it into the concrete of the bridge, whilst trying to avoid the others. Strangely, his eyes were not fixed on the mess before him or his lost earnings. Instead, he was gazing straight ahead in stupefaction. My cousin, who was in the passenger seat, was the calmest of us all. "What's happening?" he asked. The driver looked at him like he was crazy. "Did you not see it? Did you not see her?" We were puzzled. Our eyes had all been averted, so we saw nothing. There was a large crowd gathering in a section of the bridge. My cousin looked interested again. "I didn't see anything. Is it a fight?" He sounded so hopeful. The driver yanked on the handbrake and looked to him before turning to look at us in the back seat. "What do you mean a fight?" he asked, as if it was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. "No. Did you not see the woman? The woman who became a bird?" He jumped out of the vehicle and went to join the crowd. They were all looking out to the water. My two cousins, always ready to join in the excitement, got out too. "A bird," they said. "How does one become a bird? How does a woman become a bird?" As they observed the crowd from the side of the car, they had a little debate amongst themselves. "No, I think it's him playing tricks on us again," my youngest cousin said. Then the older one gestured to the crowd. "Are they all trying to play tricks on us?" There was no explanation for it. Yet the crowd stood there pointing and gazing at the water. The driver rushed back to us. "It was the woman standing by the bridge over there," he gestured. We looked, but only saw concrete and people circling a part of the bridge. There was no sign anything untoward had happened. The crowd wasn't moving, and the traffic was building up, so it made what happened next inevitable. Large, rumbling vehicles began to appear. It was the military. The bridge was one of 3 that linked the mainland to the island. The evening rush hour was starting up, and they couldn't have it being blocked. The military barracks was nearby, so they quickly dispatched some troops to see what the trouble was. The men didn't look particularly perturbed by the explanation of events. They threw a cursory glance over the bridge, eyes scanning the water, and then they began to evacuate the area. We got back in the car, the driver shaking his head as he gazed at the same spot. All the way home he spoke about it, and even mentioned it to my aunt. Like many things that happened, or I see happen, or hear happened, everything is mixed with an element of superstition. I've been told never to take anything at face value, or take anything for granted. It would be easy to label all this as crazy, but then how do you explain so many different people with no connection to each other, all saying the same thing? The driver, although he could be a bit dramatic, was also very stable. Nigerians can be dramatic people. It's what we live for. When we went home and mentioned it to the adults as they returned home in the evening, there was a silence as we spoke. I saw my grandmother give my aunt a little look. My granddad was as silent as ever. He was always careful not to say too much. When we asked them to explain what happened, we noticed very quickly they did not disparage what they'd seen. There was no mockery, nothing. All they said was, "We don't know," and that was it. We never got an explanation. We passed that same route every day without any further incident. And that stretch of road is still used till today. Did those people really see what they think they saw? Was it a trick of the light? West African sunlight can be quite unforgiving. Or perhaps the darkest reason of all. Did they see a woman truly jump? And perhaps, to deal with the trauma they just witnessed, their brains gave them a more superstitious reason. We will never know. I sometimes ask my cousins if they remember the incident of that day and what they think really happened, but they just shrug and say they genuinely have no idea. No matter where you are from in the world, have you had something strange or unexplainable happen? And how have you dealt with it till today?